and welcome to Tiny Table Talk for The Challenge Season 38, Episode 11, and throughout this season so far, everybody has been gifting me such amazing comments, so I thought it would be a fun time to do a comment palooza and go over a ton of comments from my Thursday's review and recap video. So, without further ado, let's jump in. The first comment comes from One Chicken Mama, and it is something that I forgot to highlight in my Thursday's review and recap, and it is about Casey answering Eden instead of Adam and Eve was pretty wildly dumb. Yes, that was probably one of, if not the worst answers to this season's trivia. That's so easy. I mean, even Fessel was like, I'm not even Christian and I know this answer. The next comment comes from Daniel J, who says, Wiki Nelly in full effect this episode. First of all, a huge missed opportunity for Nelson to say this during the episode, but let's just add this one to Nelson's like 15 nicknames that he has, and all of which he's given to himself. But let's keep it on Nelson for a second. He was absolutely destroying this trivia challenge, helping his team win. He was going all out when, in fact, maybe he shouldn't have. And we'll get to that comment very, very soon, and I'll get to my thoughts on that as well. But let's first talk about a comment from Pink Starfire 1, who says, trivia was way too easy. I 1000% agree. First of all, they were tethering the questions too closely to the theme of this season, which I understand they're wanting to add in the theme everywhere they can, but I felt like it really limited their question pool, and then it made things even more complicated when they added in like spelling and then one math question. That was confusing, and a lot of people on like social media, as well as some people in my comment section from this past week's episode, was like, that's pretty sus that you get a really simple math problem to bananas for the final point, for game match point. Joanna is Bubbly comes in with a comment saying, this was a bad trivia challenge because the focus was just on the spinning. But also, if it's a team trivia challenge, why aren't they allowed to answer as a team, aka discuss the answers? I feel like that would make a difference, but also, and mostly make it finally feel like they're working together, because the dailies, they have not all been actual teams. It's felt like every man for themselves, but we are gonna count you all together. I think they didn't want them to answer together as a group because, again, the questions were all way too easy. I think if everybody was able to talk it out every single question, I think it would have been 5 to 4 and 9 questions, and we could have packed up and gone, which I think a lot of the people, especially Devin, was not enjoying spinning around as much. But I totally understand where you're coming from. Hopefully the next daily challenge can be more of a relay race or team-based in some aspect. But I also wanted to throw this out there that poor Darrell, the season that he goes out a few episodes before the trivia challenge and he is not a part of, is the one that they're on the ground, securely on the ground, and he would have been able to do this one easily. But normal trivia challenge, like during Double Agents, he was hanging over water and like freaking out the whole time, but he kept calm and cool and was able to win Burger King for life with Amber. But I just thought the first real trivia challenge with them on the ground, no water in sight, and sadly Darrell had to leave beforehand. Elsa Loves Nail Polish comes in with a comment saying, I wish that Nelson was a bit smarter. I mean, he was the smartest he's ever felt during this daily challenge, but you're talking about strategy-wise, where you say he could have thrown the daily and no one could have suspected him. That would keep his ride or die safe, and then try to get rid of Anissa because she is definitely the weakest player on the team. I am sure they'll be back in pairs later, but at this point in time in the show, why wouldn't you want to drop her and avoid the possibility of having to run or walk a final with her? 1000% agree. I mean, let's be real. All these questions were super, super easy, and when the guys all got their questions wrong, I almost assumed or had hoped that they were trying to throw it because their ride or die was on the opposite team. For instance, when we saw Amber get the Star Wars question wrong, if the edit is true that Chauncey was the next person up and he didn't know to answer Venus and Serena Williams, I was thinking, oh, he's trying to cover for Amber because Amber got it wrong. He doesn't want to help his team win, feel guilty to help his team win, and then put his girlfriend in danger. I think Nelson was just super excited to know some sort of trivia and be able to contribute. He also had a confessional saying that he is going to go 100% for his team, even though he feels like his team isn't going to have his back 100%. I'm actually surprised that Bananas was helping his team as much as he was, because throughout this whole season on his podcast, he kept on talking about how he was throwing like every single daily challenge. And I thought, kind of like what you were saying, he was going to want to, quote unquote, trim some of the people off of his team that weren't going to help out. And I thought he was going to kind of sink his team. I mean, it is a Women's Day and helping out Nany, who is on the other team, yet he was going 100% trying to win. The same with Nelson. So, yeah, I agree. If Nelson would have thought about it more, he could have really just said some dumb stuff and helped out Nurys. Carrie comes in with a comment saying, if you think about it, the green team losing might be a good thing with the exception of the player going in and losing, because essentially the orange team is just eliminating their own ride or dies, which means they already have a foot out of the game. Like, for example, this episode, Nurys lost, so that means Nelson technically has 1 foot out the game. I can't wait for Fessy to push for Mariah, not knowing he's screwing himself. I don't want to see Mariah go. Like, I actually like Mariah. I'm coming around to her. I liked her on Bananas' podcast. I'm not going to lie. I was actually pretty surprised Fessy wasn't pushing for Mariah this past week. But then again, he knows that she's tethered to Bananas, who's on his team, and he wants the very best for his team. Yeah, he would be screwing himself, which would be so funny. 23 Philly Cheese comes in with a comment saying, I'm convinced Fessy saw Mariah at the gym and asked if she wanted to be on TV. They don't know each other. You know what? After this past week with the trivia challenge, with both their questions getting wrong about each other, I'm 100% with you. They maybe have done like a game night at a mutual friend's house, but it doesn't sound like they have talked deeply at all. D Money Raw comes in with a comment saying, is it just me or does Mariah have like no emotion when she speaks? She sounds like she's reading a script in confessionals. I've heard this critique about Mariah before during our Friday night lives talking about the power rankings. Somebody mentioned that she sounds like a robot. She's never been on reality TV before, at least to my knowledge. So coming into this, I think that talking in front of a camera, in front of a green screen, just doesn't come as natural to some people. This being her first season and trying to figure out, one, the game and how to play it, strategy, and then also talk in front of the camera. It's going to be a process, I think. Bilal Pandaritz, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, says Nurys was the right choice for the vote. Regardless of Tori's personal feelings, it was the right move, which is why even some of the guys said her name too. It irritated me that Nurys thinks she got voted in all because of Tori. She and Tori had a really nice talk, and I feel that Tori was being very transparent with her, and at least from what we see, has been taking any anger she has about the situation out only on Jordan, as she should. Nurys conveniently only decided to sit and talk with Tori about this when she knew she was at risk of getting voted in. I thought the timing was very interesting, just as you pointed out. But I also agree with you that Nurys was 100% the right vote. Nurys and Jordan's relationship kind of was just an added reason to vote in Nurys. We do see Nany kind of pushing for Nurys to be the main vote when she's talking to Casey, Tori, and Anissa, because it would help guarantee Nany a little bit more safety than, say, going into the dagger pool next to Mariah and Nurys, who would have ultimately saved each other. So I think multiple angles, Nurys had to be the vote. One, for Nany's sake, who has a lot of friends on the other side, as well as her own team, as I also think that Nurys was the strongest woman on her team via she was a jack of all trades. When it comes down to it, Nurys has been showing out this season. I mean, she won 2 dailies with Nelson. She has endurance, she has strength, she has speed. I mean, yes, there was personal reasons to vote her in, but I think Nurys is a very strong threat in this game. And I hope she becomes a mainstay and comes back on to do multiple challenge seasons, because I think she brought a lot to this game, brought a lot to this season, and not just being messy and bringing some of the drama, but also she was a really strong competitor. And I mean, she could still come back. I mean, she is holding her arm. She said that she hurt her hip and her groin previously coming into the elimination against Amber. She said that on the podcast, but I'm just saying that what she was able to accomplish this season in 11 episodes was incredible, and I think that it just showed that she needs to come back for another season. But I also agree with you that she was strategically the right vote to hinder Mariah's team moving forward in this game. The next comment comes from Tyrone, who says, "Why are we saving Nany? Am I missing something?" No, she just has a lot of friends, but also I don't think the other team views her as a very big threat. I mean, let's think about this. Nany has been to the past 2 seasons finals in Double Agents and in season 37. 2 finals that she wasn't really close at winning at all. She gassed out and put herself on cruise control in Double Agents and got 3rd place with Leroy. And then in 37, she was on the losing squad for, I would say, 80 to 90% of last season's finals. So when it comes down to it, I think people are like, oh, she's experienced, but I don't think she's viewed that much as a threat. So I think if anything, people are wanting to keep her on the season because of they don't want the backlash of all of her friends coming at them, say the next episode or 2 weeks from now. But also on the other side, I just don't think she's viewed that much as a threat. The next comment comes from William, who says, "Nelson and Nurys didn't set themselves up for success earlier in the season with their wins, and here's the result. Unfortunate." Yes, 100% yes, 1,000% yes. I mean, think about it. They got wins. They got 2 wins leading up to the split. And we have Nurys wanting to make a big move, sending in vets, and Nelson's like, no. We shouldn't do that. We have a long ways in this game. We should take some of the safe route. And they do. They take the safe route. And what results? Because in the 2 times that they were in power, the people that left when they were in power was Annalise and Tommy and Darrell and Veronica. 2 non-threats in this game to you specifically. And look what happens. The team split, the format changes, and now your original partner is walking out the door. And I feel like Nelson is in a very bad spot. Yeah, it's so unfortunate, especially when they had the opportunity to make deals and set themselves up and have legit friends in this game to have their backs, yet they don't do it. They don't do it, and it's so frustrating. I assume, and I kind of got this from the podcast episode with Nurys and Devon, where Nurys was like, okay, I was cool to kind of like let Nelson call the shots and not throw in Bananas and Nany that 1 week that they were in power, because she felt like, oh, as long as we're partnered up still together, that we should have a really great chance of winning again later down the season. You can't do that. You have to take your shots when you have it, when you have the opportunity, because you never know when you're going to win again. So use the opportunities given to you to set yourself up further, make deals, make alliances, use your power as leverage, which they did not do. Oh, it's so frustrating that we got to this point because they just didn't use their power correctly. And that's the thing, is like Nelson was on such a losing streak with daily challenges that when he got into power, he just didn't know what to do with it. You know, he kind of was just like, let's just play nice with all the vets, which now that we're in 2 teams, they're not playing nice with you. Safib comes in with a comment saying, if Tori wanted to show it wasn't personal, she should have voted for someone else because Nurys was going in regardless. I 100% see where you're coming from this and seeing where you're coming from with this comment. However, why say somebody else's name if they have all the votes to go in already? Why make a possible enemy out of Fessel and Mariah for saying Mariah's name? Why put a target on your back for saying Nany's name? Why say anybody else's name if Nurys is already going in? Again, I think that this was a good game move. And yes, there is this like personal reason that does factor into why Aneesa and Tori wanted to say Nurys' name. It taints it a bit, that it does add a level of petty reasons to say Nurys' name. But I also think that Nurys was a big threat. And if Nurys already have the votes to send in, and Tori kind of put it out there to Tori, Aneesa, and Nany when talking to them that one morning before the deliberations that, okay, we're going to send in Nurys. We'll all vote to say Nurys and we'll all be good. Why change your vote up now? You look like you're a two-timer. Don't stick to your word if you do that. So I think that there was more at play than it being a personal one. But I also think that it wasn't 100% personal. It was a good move. If Nurys wasn't even close with Nelson winning dailies, or she couldn't answer a trivia question correctly and she was fumbling throughout this whole season, then I could understand, like, yeah, that's 100% a personal move, that Nurys isn't a threat at all. But at the same time, she was a very big threat. And Nurys, talking to Davon on the podcast, said that she saw it as 50-50. That it was a personal move to a certain extent on Tori's side, but as well as she was winning. She understands that she's winning. She was a rookie, and she was outpacing a lot of people, especially during those daily challenges like Peaky Blinders, as well as doing the mini final, that she was like, we were a threat. We were viewed as a threat, and I should be viewed as a threat. And so she understands that it was personal to a certain extent, but it was also a really good game move. The next comment comes from Jared, who says, Amber is 5-1 in eliminations. That is correct. That is an incredible and impressive record to have as your elimination record in your first 3 seasons. I mean, looking through the challenge wiki at some of the people that hold 5-1 elimination records, I mean, Amber joins the club of Landon, who has seen 6 eliminations on his entire challenge career and is 5-1 in those 6 eliminations. Jillian, who is also a champion, is 5-1 in eliminations. Elton, when taking a look at just, and I mean just, the main season stats, not taking into account All-Stars, he is 5-1 in eliminations, as well as Sylvia is also 5-1. Again, not looking at All-Stars, just looking purely at the main seasons. And that is, I would say that's, for the most part, an impressive grouping to be put into. She is somebody not to be messed with. She is somebody to be feared with possibly going into elimination against. And the final comment comes from Eric, who says, have a great holiday season, Drew. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a great holiday season as well. Thank you so much for watching. Now, I want to give a special shout out, thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who is watching this video up to this point. I hope everybody has a great holiday season. I hope everybody has a fun, safe time celebrating with friends and family. Find some time to relax. Enjoy the time together and the final week or so of 2022, as 2023 is right around the corner. I'll be back really soon with more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.